Somewhere over the forests of southern Washington state, Cooper jumped. He has never been seen since.
Sun and then right, here we go. If you make sure you're connected, the writing's on the wall. But if your mind's neglected, stumble you might fall, stumble you might fall. Stumble you might fall.
At 7:42 p.m., the pilots noted that there was a aft stair light that was going off on their dashboard. And what that meant was Cooper was in the back lowering the stairs. He started to fiddle with it. Their instruments were going off. That was at 7:42. At around 8 o'clock, FAA in the Northwest Command Central, along with FBI, were in contact with the pilots on the plane, and they were telling them, the sooner this guy jumps, the sooner you can land safely. They were worried to some extent that Cooper would jump and leave the bomb on the plane, so they started having a discussion about what kind of bomb this was. And it was at that point that Ralph Himmelsbach, I don't want to say he discovered it, but it dawned on him that this may not actually be a real bomb, because he's listening in real time, and they're Schaffner is up in Seattle describing this bomb as she's talking to the authorities, and basically she's saying that the sticks of dynamite look like her uniform. Well, her uniform was like this red coral color, and Himmelsbach's thinking, well, that's not dynamite. Dynamite's beige. The only thing I know that's coral red or red like that are highway flares. So he's at 8 o'clock, right around 8 o'clock is where this is all happening. And they didn't want to gamble on it, but at the same time, they're already in the air. They're already flying. The crew's in the cockpit. Cooper's in the back. He's already started lowering the stairs. At 8:05, the co-pilot, I believe it was the co-pilot, Radchak, gets on the comm and is asking Cooper, is there anything I can do to help? Do you need any help back there? Anything we can do? Do you have it okay? Because remember, he was having problems lowering the stairs before they took off. He didn't really know what to do. He had Tina Mucklow come back and show him how to do it. Which is important, because one suspect has been thought of that they worked for the airline and they were flying all the time. Well, Cooper himself didn't really know how to work the stairs. That's something to understand. Now, 8:05, Radchak comms Cooper and says, is there anything we can do? They get static, they get silence, and then all of a sudden they hear him get on, and he says, no. That was pretty much it, 8:05. Now, 8:11, 8:12-ish, 8:11, somewhere in there, 8:10, somewhere in there, they start getting some oscillations, and they're thinking something's going on with the stairs. He's doing something with the stairs. Well, if he's walking down on the stairs are going to be coming down further and further. So it's going to start affecting how the plane is moving. And remember, they're paying very close attention, because they were just told the sooner this guy leaves, the sooner you guys can land safely. So they're really trying to pay attention and get an eye for when does he leave. And people are listening in real time. They've patched this through. And so they're really paying very close attention. They're trying to keep their eye on it. The entire airway was cleared. FAA cleared the entire airway. They had military chase planes going after them like this, zigzagging, because they were too fast. They had a helicopter trying to trail it, although I'm not quite clear if the helicopter was behind it at this point or later, but it was on its way they were monitoring McChord Air Force Base, the chase planes, PDX, the FAA up in Auburn, Washington. They were all monitoring this plane, and this plane was being watched very closely. And the people listening in on the comms were listening very closely too for any kind of clues what's going on. And they're thinking this thing's going to go, mid-flight. So 8:12 precisely, the captains get on and say, I think our friend has just left. Because basically what had happened is that he's flying, And right about that time, ears pop instantly, the whole crew. Ears pop, plane's doing a little bit of weirdness like this. And what's happening is, and how we know what happened, is a few months later they were able to get the same jet, same crew, they had military craft flying on the sides, videotaping, and what they found was they took a 200-pound sled and they took it out onto the stairs, you know, they lowered it down with a pulley, and this was over the Pacific Ocean so they wouldn't hurt anybody. And then they pulled the cable so that the cable didn't have anything supporting it and the sled would fall off. So the minute the sled falls off the stairs come flying back, because remember, the air is coming this way. Okay, so the air is actually working to push the stairs up, and the weight is pushing to make the so it's causing a lot of resistance on the plane. So as the 200 pounds is at the very end, and then it gets released, it's almost like a springboard. It goes boom, pops up into the cabin, causes their ears to pop. Well, also the aerodynamics of the jet, when it comes up like this, all of a sudden it's going from, you know, a lot of drag to less drag, and it starts to, you know, trim out. So that exact same thing happened in the test. So they positively, absolutely, 100% had the time of Cooper's jump, 8:12. Now, was it 8:12 and 30 seconds? Was it 8:11 and 30 seconds? Was our clocks right? I don't know. The one mistake that was made was that the captains did not look at their instruments and say, here's our exact coordinates right now. No, instead what they did is they were on the comm and they said, I think our friend just left. So this is happening in real time. Now, they have a guy in Auburn hand pinpointing in real time as the plane is going. He's got this map and he's hand doing it. He's doing by hand. He's watching the radar and he's doing it by hand. Okay? And meanwhile, you have the Northwest authorities, you have the FAA, everybody's monitoring this thing. So when they say, we think our friend has left, they take a note of where the plane is, and of course the route is all generated in a computer at the FAA. They figured out approximately where he jumped. But the only thing was the captains didn't actually take a coordinate. So, we know he jumped at 8:12. We don't know precisely exactly it was this point or this point, but we know pretty well a good area. So what they did is they took all this information in January 1972, and after a few months they had been studying this, and they figured out an area of all the possible places he could have landed. Because remember, we don't know if he didn't open the chute, if he opened it right away, if he opened it halfway down, was the plane here, or was it a tenth of a nautical mile off? We don't know. So what they did is they made this map, and with a margin of error of half a nautical mile on each side, so a full nautical mile range, and then they took what they believed to be the wind and speed and tried to tabulate if he had a no pull, where would he have landed, if he pulled right away, where he landed, and they developed this drift line like this. And they said, all right, so if he jumps at, say, 8:11, he's going to go along this trajectory. So this point here being no pull, this being an early pull, he's going to be somewhere along this line. And basically you're just going to have a series of hypothetical drift lines that he would be on. And then this would be the latest, but he's still in this general vicinity. Okay?